Yep, got it. Right, so I can begin now, yeah?
Yep.
Starting to be a slideshow. Okay, so if everyone can see it, so we can begin, yeah. Yeah. So first of all, so thank you for coming to the lightning talk here today. I'm going to talk about Chinese dialects, two very familiar one, Mandarin versus Cantonese. Before I begin, just want to say thanks to many people, but I think I would like to single out my students because I've been teaching Chinese as a foreign language to students in foreign countries before, and I must have taught over 100. I'd like to thank every single one of them for for showing interest and also getting me to think about these languages in very different ways. So let's begin. Okay, so first of all, some background about your Chinese dialects. So for me, Chinese dialects mean a lot because I'm from Hong Kong, so it's my native language. I actually presented on say Cantonese as a lightning talk last year, so it's on YouTube, etc. So you can all check it out. So yeah, I presented on the very similar topic to Ronan before. And the big question that people have been talking about is Mandarin versus Cantonese. These are the two best known varieties of Chinese, and people often say that these are two different languages. The key word here is two and languages. I've written in an op-ed before that the answer is no, because it's an underestimation and an overestimation of Chinese. Is that it's an underestimation, and they're not just two types of Chinese. There are many, 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 many varieties of Semitic. There are 7 big families, and within each family there are tons of sub dialects, and so we're talking about thousands here. There are thousands of Chinese dialects. I'm not just two. And secondly, the language versus dialect debate. I mean, just briefly, it's the traditional view is that in societies we could divide languages versus some dialects in terms of formal and informal. Okay, so languages tend to be used in formal context, whereas dialects tend to be used in informal context. And so it's perfectly possible for H and L, so for dialects and languages to coexist in contemporary society, which is what we have in many societies in China, and that we have Mandarin as the official variety and a local dialect. More information can be found, on my Asia Times column and Medium, which I'll share in due course. Now, I wrote the slide talk about the social linguistics of Chinese, but I think I'll probably skip this because this isn't directly relevant. But if anyone wants to talk more about this during the Q&A, we can talk about it. Okay, so first of all, formal language variation. As we know, there are loads of languages in the world, and people when they compare languages, they come up with linguistic universals as well as variation. The mainstream view is it's called cartography. So there's a universal projection of linguistic categories. It was initiated by Cinque and developed by others. And people have established that there are 2 main domains, one for the clause and one for the noun. And people have said that these 2 domains are actually quite similar. They're 2 parallel structures. So for example, Apne and also a Longobardi, who was my supervisor here at York. We assume a head initiality, so left to right. So head comes first, and complement comes next to it, of left to right. And so in the clause, you have established this type of structure. So there's comp, subject, tense, auxiliary, aspect, verb, object. Now, they illustrate it with some very simple English examples. That he will want to go home. Okay, so this is the fixed order we have in English and tested in many different languages as well. So that's the complementizer denoting a subordinate clause, and he will want to go home. There is a fixed order in which English sentences are constructed. And similarly, there's a conditional clause here. If we use if as the complementizer, and that if I want to be a butterfly. Okay, I believe that this is the first line of a famous hymn that I used to sing at school. But if I want to be a butterfly, a very fixed order. The nominal domain, people have also established a fixed order. So it's something like this: definite, possessive, possession, demonstrative, number, quantifier, and noun. So in English, we can say those two books, okay? A very fixed order, those two books, demonstrative, number, noun. Or we could have, possessive construction. So, we could say Chomsky, who is the world's most famous linguist, Chomsky's many publications. Oh, okay, so this apostrophe S, that's the possessive particle. Possessive comes before it. Chomsky's many publications. So these are the word orders that have been established, and they've been tested cross-linguistically. So we apply these sort of technical assumptions to Chinese. All right, so Chinese, unlike English, it's SVO, so subject, verb, object. It's also head initial. So it's pretty much the same as what we saw for English on the previous slide. It's left to right, head plus complement. So you get similar sort of schema. So all these things I've explained before, except that the Chinese, like East Asian languages, have many sort of sentence final particles. Okay, so we can put so these occur at the end of sentences. If we translate sentences from the previous line, okay, so in Mandarin, if we just say that 他会想回家吧, okay, so 他 is the subject, meaning he, 会想, so it will want, 回家吧, return home, then etc. Okay, so it's a similar word order, so subject, rest, verb, object, etc. If we use the conditional example that we saw on the previous slide, 如果我要变成蝴蝶的话, okay, 如果 means if, okay, so that's the C element. 我要变成蝴蝶, so I want to become or transform into a butterfly. That's the SFP. Okay, so we get a very similar sort of a schema where it's head initial and we have a fixed word order. Right, so if we apply this to Mandarin and also other a dialect, we get some very interesting variation. Okay, so for example, in Mandarin, we can say 我先喝酒. Okay, so it means I drink wine first, or I first drink wine. Okay, 先 in the adverb, so it comes before the verb. So 我先喝酒了. Okay, in Cantonese, however, we get this sort of variation. It's the equivalent for 先 to 先 comes after the verb and object. So in Cantonese, you would say with 我飲酒先啦.我飲酒先啦. Okay, so 先 comes after the verb and object. And also in the Mandarin, we could quantify a verb by using 多少, meaning more or less. And it's also some kind of adverb. So we could say 你多吃一点吧, or 你少吃一点吧. So you should eat more or less. Okay. In Cantonese, however, we would use 多 and 少 after the verb, so between the verb and the object. So in Cantonese, we would say 你食多啲啦, or 你食少啲啦. All right, so we get these sort of different positions if we compare Mandarin and Cantonese. So if we look at the noun, we also have a similar schema. I'll illustrate this. So, for example, if we translate the English examples from a previous slide, when you want to say those two books, 那两本书. I've added a little adjective there because in Chinese, the adjective also comes between the classifier and the noun. Okay, so and also we use this modifier particle. So if I want to say this this entire sentence, 那两本红色的书. Okay, so if again we have a fixed order and it's demonstrative, number, classifier, adjective, modifier, noun. The other example is Chomsky 的很多出色的出版作品. So Chomsky's many publications, but I've also added an adjective there just to illustrate the adjective category. Okay, so Chomsky, possession, and then many, and then adjective, the noun. Okay, it's also similar to English, and then we put this fixed order. It's head initial, and it goes from left to right. So the main thing here to point out is the, which denotes possession and multiplication, and the Cantonese equivalent is air. Okay, we use air. Right, so if we use this example in Chinese, we could say, so 这所很高的房子. Okay, it means this, or if we say 那所, if it's that, so this or that or house. Okay, we have this fixed order. In Cantonese, that would be so 呢間屋嗰間好高嘅屋, etc. The main difference between Mandarin and Cantonese is, in Cantonese, is that the demonstrative is optional. So we could say 間好間嘅屋. So we drop the demonstrative and we use the classifier as the initial element. Right, so if we compare Mandarin and Cantonese, okay, so we've got the schema again. If we look at them, yeah, so in Mandarin, xian before comes after the verb phrase. In Cantonese, it comes after the verb phrase. So we could have posit a rule like this, where in Mandarin it's adverb plus verb phrase. In Cantonese, it's a verb phrase plus adverb. But the other example, we could say that duo and shao, these adverbs denoting quantity, they come before the verb, whereas in Cantonese they come after the verb, as we have here. Yeah. For the noun, again, we use this schema. Compare Mandarin and Cantonese. Is the main thing to notice is in Cantonese, demonstratives are optional, so we can drop the things, the particles that mean this or that, so legal. We can use a classifier as the initial element. And when the demonstrative is omitted, when the classifier comes first in Cantonese, it means something else. It means the. So rather than this or that, it can simply mean the when the classifier comes first. So again, we posit on this particular rule. In Cantonese, we can have classify initial nouns where the CL presumably moves to D, and it denotes a definite article. In English, it means the. All right, so conclusion.
A few minutes left.
Sorry?
We have a few minutes left. We're closing in on.
Yeah, think about it. Yeah. So if we apply the conclusion, is that this paper, I've been trying to show you the formal and the parametric analysis of Chinese, and we can compare the Mandarin and Cantonese. We've come up with these rules where there are these differences between the Mandarin and Cantonese. And I just hope that research into Chinese language and linguistics can be applied to Chinese teaching, because I think these rules are very convenient for students to learn about Chinese. So once you remember and you take into account these rules, you can apply them to Mandarin or Cantonese. So theoretical linguistics can be used for practical purposes, such as a language teaching. And here is summary that we can talk about if people are interested. Thank you.